Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to Inside the Newsroom. I'm Maddie Paul. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. I know I did. I enjoyed the weather as much as I could, but coming into work today, it was a little cold. We're going to talk about that in a second because I want to tell you about what's coming up today on Inside the Newsroom. We are bringing in our trending stories from the KELOLAND area. And the best part of all, we're bringing in the Newsroom staff members that create the trending stories that you see every day on KELOLAND.com and our KELOLAND newscasts. Now, I know I mentioned the cold because I'm not a fan per se of the cold. It feels like fall. And that's why we're bringing in Brian Karstens to talk about why we're feeling this way. Brian, we should not be in fall right now.
August, though, can be just that first little glimpse of that, right? And then it goes right back, so don't worry too much.
I'm worried.
The 7-day forecast will put your concerns to ease here. We've got a lot of heat. Actually, that's the dominant story, is the return of heat and humidity. But since you brought up the weekend, I thought I'd bring up the high temperature map from yesterday.
Yeah.
We ended up with clouds, and maybe that probably added to the feel more than anything. 75. We had some late day sun, but Worthington, the high was 72.
Wow.
And 70 in Ortonville. So for early August, yes, that is way below average. So there's that. And then, of course, the heat out west, we had near 90 in winter. We did end up with some storms that developed in that kind of that battle zone a little bit. Last night, there was some localized heavy rainfall. I saw some reports that came out of Lyman County, which is that area just to the west of Fort Thompson. In fact, this map here kind of goes back in time a little bit and shows us some of the radar replays there. And you can see those hot spots on radar. And keep in mind that as we anticipate the weather this week, we are going to have a conversation not only about the chance of some severe weather emerging, but also the possibility of some locally heavy rainfall. And I think many of us that have lived here a long time know that August kind of is known for that, especially, I would say, more years than not, that you get that late summer rain and it can get really heavy at times. So we'll be, I'm sure, a little busy here, Maddie, in the Storm Center.
Well, as long as I can keep my jacket off, I guess I'll be a little bit happy about that. But I will grab my umbrella if I need to, especially if our rain totals need it at this point.
Yeah, we're going to get some rain out of this pattern. And, of course, as we have that conversation about rain, too, one of the things that we're going to be talking about in the Whether or Not program today is the risk of severe weather. And this is a conversation that comes off of what we talked about this morning, is that the fact is we've got, with the heat and humidity, the Storm Prediction Center has issued several outlooks for our region. The first one comes in today, western South Dakota, but unfortunately it's not the only one here in the mix.
You know, severe weather is really interesting this summer. I spent my last summer in Minnesota, and coming back with the South Dakota severe weather is a little new to me. But do we usually see all modes or risks of severe weather like this early in August?
Well, usually since I've been working here, the main thing that we watch in June typically is a ramp up of severe weather. That month typically peaks tornado season because once you cross over into July and August, the storm tracks change and we typically get into more heavy rainmakers, but also the wind, the hail can also be there as well, but it tends to kind of subside. This year, you know, like a lot of years, things don't always follow the plan or the normals. And so July ended up with just a lot of severe weather at the end of the month. August now probably is going to start off pretty busy. We're concerned about some of the outlooks later in the week, on Friday and Saturday in particular. It's a little unusual for the Storm Prediction Center to put out a day 5 outlook for our region, and they've already done that on this Monday. So that's pertaining to Friday's forecast. Honestly, Saturday, too, could be tossed in there. They mentioned a couple of sentences about that in their morning write-up. So my best advice as you plan the week, first of all, don't worry about the weather because that's not going to do any good for anybody. And I have to remind myself about that because I think anxiety kind of rolls higher after you've been through some really rough weather, or even if you've been glanced by it. I think that heightened awareness is definitely there. So all we can do is take one day at a time, and we're going to be marching through those outlooks. I think it's probably safe to say the first couple of days, most of our attention is going to be West River. And then as the week goes on, there's going to be actually a pretty big break in this. And that's another discussion point we're going to be talking about on our Whether or Not program today is the cap or a lid on the atmosphere that'll actually probably give us a break on storms too.
Well, I think you would want that. Give it a little radar clearness.
Yeah, I'm totally for that. I like some regular rains in August. Everybody says, okay, that's fine. Just no more of this, violent wind and just everything else we've dealt with. I think everybody would be in agreement on that. But obviously, weather has a mind of its own. We can't control it, so we'll forecast it and do the best we can.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for joining us with those details. And you know what? It was a pretty good weekend for the Sioux Empire Fair as they got a little bit of cool weather coming in. And we had a reporter go out and look how this week started. Stay with us. We'll have more next on Inside the Newsroom. And welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. The 86th Annual Sioux Empire Fair is in full swing. And Jordan DeSmit stopped by to see how they're enjoying that opening weekend.
It has been a beautiful start to the Sioux Empire Fair.
It's really nice out. I'm super excited for today.
I couldn't ask for better. Nice, mildly sunny day. It's not too hot, so yeah, it's a good day to be out here.
Fair President and CEO Scott Wick says he has seen a steady crowd.
We're tracking on par for last year's attendance, and the carnival did very, very well yesterday, and numbers were up over last year for the full day of Saturday.
While there was trash to clean up, Wick says it was a pretty smooth transition going from Rock the Country to the fair.
They got it all cleaned up. Guys did some mowing before the fair started, and so it was very easy. Rock the Country was very easy to work with. Those guys did a good job.
As for security, so far people have been behaving themselves.
We haven't had any issues. The curfew's been very well received. We continue to get compliments every year about that. The teenagers and the young folks have been absolutely phenomenal these first few days. I anticipate that'll continue on.
You have until Saturday to enjoy everything the fair has to offer, and Wick expects the fun to continue.
We anticipate we'll end strong. We've got really good concert lineup, and with our format of free shows with paid fair admission.
Highly recommend this place. It's really nice and it's fun, especially for families.
And there's enough fun to go around for everyone. In Sioux Falls, Jordan DeSmit, KELOLAND News.
And Jordan joins us now at the digital desk to talk a little bit more about this story. Jordan, how fun is it to do like these fair stories? I just love it so much, especially for the weekend. And this story covered some pretty big aspects. You got the weather, you got the cleanup from a different event, and then security. But one thing that me with my little journalist eye catches is the amount of people that you got in the story. So how did you find everyone that you featured?
It was actually a little bit harder at first because I got turned down a couple of different times. And then the marketing person actually ran into me. She's like, how's it going? I'm like, well, I'm having some trouble finding people. And so the first interview that I actually got was that interview that you saw inside. And I found somebody. And then the two kids that you saw that interviewed was actually kind of a funny story. So you saw the stand-up that I did in the story. As soon as I was done, one of those kids actually kind of screamed to try to throw me off. And then I yelled at him, hey, joke's on you. I'm actually done with I got it done. So you didn't throw me off. And then out of the blue, they're like, hey, can I be interviewed? I'm like, sure, why not? I could always use more, so it worked. It ended up adding quite a bit to my story, I think. So it worked
added
out
a lot, even though they were trying to get you as you were recording. How sweet is that? But did you find yourself enjoying that cooler weather that was out there for the fair this weekend?
I did. If I wasn't working, I think I definitely would have been trying to enjoy the fair a little bit. And I got paid to go to the fair, so I'm not complaining about that. I will say I'm not a big roller coaster or ride person. I get dizzy pretty easily, so a lot of those rides that you saw that I put in the story, it was probably a no thanks from me.
I was going to say, can you imagine yourself mic'd up as you're in one of those swinging ones in the air? Just you trying to record a little stand-up or something. I bet Perry would do that.
Yeah, I tell you what, if I had a photographer filming for me, I might have thought of that. I might have maybe considered doing that, but
just
no.
the thought.
Yeah.
Well, as I was saying earlier, you had your three big parts of the story. One, having fun at the fair, but then also weather, cleanup, and security. With that cleanup portion, it just brought back to me that we did have Rock the Country just a few weeks ago. And we're always on to the next event, especially with the fairgrounds. And as you were talking to the CEO for the Sioux Empire Fair, why did you find yourself including that part of the cleanup in this story?
Well, Rock the Country was a big story for us. I mean, it brought in thousands upon thousands of people to Sioux Falls. And another big story as well is we took pictures of how much trash was left behind. And so I think a lot of people were wondering, well, how is this going to affect the fair? So I felt like it was definitely a fair question to ask. And it was clean from what I saw. I didn't really see any problems or issues with trash there. So it was just a question I thought I needed to bring up.
Overall, really fun event, just like looking through everything that they're doing, still having a big concert lineup, which everyone, if you're interested, you can find that on KELOLAND.com. And is there anything that you look forward to when you go to the fair, Jordan? I know you just said that you got paid to go to the fair, but what did you want to capture in your story?
I want to just make sure I captured just how people are enjoying it, people having fun, and how enjoyable stuff like this and how good events like these are for Sioux Falls and our community.
Especially when it's cooler outside. I mean, I complain about the cold. I just did at the beginning of the show. But when it comes to being like outdoors like that, I feel like a little bit of a breeze, a little bit of cooler weather can help, especially when you're outside all day.
Exactly. When I walked out of my place that day, I was like, man, I almost need a coat, right? I'm not used to this, right?
Thank you for saying that. That's very validating for me.
But I didn't need one, right? But yeah, it was a perfect day to be out there. And you know, whenever you can kind of just enjoy your day without worrying about being hot and muggy, it's a good day.
Well, is there anything else that you'd like to say about the creation of this story, Jordan, or anything else about the Sioux Empire Fair?
Yeah, I would say just go out and enjoy it and see if you can catch some performances. They did mention too that the performances that you see are free with your paid fair admission, so go and enjoy some shows.
Thank you, Jordan. And you can catch all the details you need about the Sioux Empire Fair if you go to KELOLAND.com. Just scan that QR code that you see on your screen right now to find Jordan's story. And stay with us because up next on Inside the Newsroom, we are looking at a space to create and celebrate. Find out more about our recent Eye on KELOLAND story when we come back after the break. And we're back with Inside the Newsroom, making space for creativity. Travis Fossing recently did an Eye on KELOLAND story where he gave us a closer look inside mosaic arts and events. And Travis joins us right here at the digital desk. It's so exciting when we get Travis. It's like a rare event. But to talk about this Eye on KELOLAND story. So Travis, to start for some context for our viewers, what makes an Eye on KELOLAND story different than any other story we see on our newscasts?
Well, I think with an Eye on KELOLAND, you really get to tell the whole story. I mean, I could go over and do a daily story with Mosaic Arts and Events and focus on one individual aspect of what they do. But the Eye on KELOLAND gives a little more freedom time-wise to talk about all the aspects of what happens there and a little bit of the history of the building itself.
Yeah, because your eye looks not only into the history of that building and that historic space, but then all the things that are offered through the Mosaic Arts and Events. And one thing that's so special about your story is how you started off with your interview with Teddy, the kid.
Yeah.
And, how do you believe that interview helped shape the impact of your story?
Well, I think Teddy brought an excitement to it. I mean, it was a classroom full of 15 kids, and we just kind of asked around who would be interested in talking with us. And he volunteered and came and did a great job and talked about wanting to do a painting of a lake like Bob Ross, he said.
Huh.
And, he just gave a smile and was willing to talk. And even at the end of it, thanked me for interviewing him, for taking the time. So, yeah, he was great.
Wow, what a little gentleman. And, what did you find the organizers to be so passionate about as they were talking to you in the interview? Because there's both adult and children classes that come with this. So what are they passionate about when bringing Mosaic Arts and Events?
Well, the education instructor that we had talked to has been there for about 12 years now. And she loves all kinds of art. She likes working with the kids and the adults. And she just brings a passion to the table for this building and that space, and was having a good time with the kids in there, and the kids seemed to respond, and were following her direction, and all was well.
All was well behaved now that the journalist was in the room.
Yeah, everybody was well behaved. with their
As you
watercolor brushes.
Yeah, there you go. And as you were putting this story together, when we're talking about a story with arts, we want to see that art come to life.
Yeah.
So what visuals were important for you to grab as you were putting this story together?
Well, it was a drawing to start with. They kind of did the basics of what they wanted to create eventually with the watercolor brush. So a little bit of drawing, and then they got out the paints and brought that to the table. And we wanted to get as much of the drawing as possible. We didn't want to show them starting a sketch and then just be done with them. So we wanted to walk through the whole process, and we were able to bounce around. We went over to the event space where they have the weddings and did some photography over there, and then went outside and got some shots of the building from the exterior and all that neat rock out there, and then eventually came back to the classroom and saw some of the finished products.
What stood out to you as you were putting this story together? Did you learn anything new, or did anything surprise or shock you?
Well, I knew it was a historic building, but it dates back to 1887 and used to be an oil company. And it's been different businesses over the course of the past century and a half, basically. And with it, it sat empty for a while and then was bought in 2005 and renovated. And one of the interesting aspects of this story, and what kind of motivated me to go over there, was a year ago it was called the Museum of Visual Materials. And they changed their name to Mosaic just to better represent what they do, because they said the first word in it was museum. Well, they had no art hanging on the wall. So they said they'd have people coming in wanting to see this museum, and that's not exactly what it is. So they wanted to tell their story where arts are taught and created, and then a big ballroom space for doing weddings or other events.
Wow. And this is an Eye on KELOLAND story. So as you said before, you didn't have that minute 30 time constraint to this story. Did you find that helpful when putting this specific story together?
Yeah, and I had a pretty good idea going in, kind of what I wanted it to be, as far as, wanted to start with the kids in the art room, and then eventually transition to here's the space where they do the weddings, and show some of the old pictures in between as well of the space in general, and the courtside up on the wall, and the brick, and those neat wood floors, and just everything with it. I had something in mind, and I think it came together about how I was thinking. And Ash, my photographer, did a terrific job as always, just getting the pictures and the video and just everything that was needed to match up with my words, I guess. So.
Excellent. You're listing like a very good storyboard for us right now of everything. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to share about either putting this story together, or anything else that stood out to you about Mosaic Arts and Events?
Well, I think the big thing is they're a nonprofit as well. They need art supply donations or monetary donations to help the art program go, and that's part why they host events. They host weddings, is to help. Money goes right back into the arts side of it. And again, it's for kids and adults. They're introducing some new things with a pottery wheel and different aspects like that. So trying new arts, again, for all ages. And sometimes the classroom even has adults and kids in it at the same time. So, it's a neat space, and check it out. It's a historic building. And honestly, I had never been in there before. And this was my first time in, and loved it.
Not your last now. He's going to go back and do that pottery.
If only I was artistic.
The sports guy over here trying to figure it out. I love it. No, you did a great job, Travis. Even though it was arts related, it was great. Thank you for sharing these details. And viewers, stick around. We have more coming up next on Inside the Newsroom. We're almost wrapping up on time for Inside the Newsroom, but there's one trending story that we still need to talk about, and it's all related to another event that started last Friday, and that is the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. Now, that began again on Friday, and we have one spot on KELOLAND.com where you can read and watch all Sturgis-related stories. So I'm going to take you to KELOLAND.com right now. If you want to follow me, just scan that QR code that you see on your screen, and it will take you to the KELOLAND.com homepage. So when you enter KELOLAND.com, you'll see this on our homepage. And if you're looking specifically for the Sturgis Rally stories, there's one spot where you can do so. So up in our news category right here. If you just hover your mouse around it, it will drop down and bring you all of these different categories that you can go to. So what we want, obviously, is Sturgis Rally. So if we just look through what the drop down gives us, we can see right here, kind of in the middle of this first block, Sturgis Rally. Just click on it and boom, you get all of your Sturgis related stories right here. There's always something trending, as you can see over here. Here's a lot of trending stories related to the Sturgis Rally and motorcycles and anything like that. But if you scroll down to here, you can see a list of stories that we've posted from KELOLAND.com to give you all of those trending stories. Now, again, this is all on KELOLAND.com. So if you need to go and find this section for yourself, it's up on news. Just drop down and you'll find Sturgis Rally. This is all on KELOLAND.com. So scan that QR code that you see on your screen and you'll be able to find all of your Sturgis related stories. That's all the time that we have today for Inside the Newsroom. Happy Monday. Stay cool. And until next time, have a great day, everyone.